After the 2017 Donald Township zoning ordinance.
Did you write that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
It's been in the minutes forever, Bob. You can go back through the minutes. These last sections
I
here.
just,
Okay.
there's a lot of things. Now, from what Doug just said, of course, Doug isn't your chairman. You are. Stand up and do something.
He's right.
Stand on your own feet. Don't let him run the meetings. He runs over Dave all the time in the supervisors' meetings.
Yes, he does.
So you better stand up. A lot of people are going to be, you think your thing's bad now, just wait. Mr. Bittner, is that it? Dittmer? I feel sorry for you. You walked into a hornet's nest. Okay, what are we gonna, I guess the question is, Doug doesn't allow me to say, the rest of you got enough gumption to say something about it. What about these other things that we talked about, we decided needed things done, and now they're hanging out there?
I'll answer. I don't know the answer. How about that? That's my answer.
Well, at
Didn't we just
at
go
least
this in the
you
motion?
have more fortitude than some of the rest of them. Thank you.
Whatever.
Because I don't think when we walk into the township meeting, I'm allowed to comment, so just bear with me. I think when this goes to the township, it's gonna be bang, rubber stamped, and it's going to Washington County. We know that Washington County doesn't do anything, they just ship it back. Like I said, noise is one. We going to go over that stuff, Doug? Yes or no?
Just saying, Mike wasn't. What were we gonna do with those?
Yeah, what are we gonna do?
Didn't we just say that we're?
Again, the notes that I have, I will incorporate all those. And then
See,
when it goes
because-
in front of you to.
Because it wasn't that we thought that the ones from 0 to 43 or 33 or wherever we're at was the important ones. We thought to save time, you just go through it as we did it. So some of these ones at the other end are just as important as some of the ones on the first part of it.
I have a question about noise since I'm an audiologist. If I understood the ordinance right, it was 65 decibels.
For mixed use.
Or seven.
Is mixed use his voice, for example?
He's
That's way
over
above.
65
Oh,
though.
he's 70 or 75.
No, probably more like 80.
Okay, we'll give you 80,
What do you
but
think his blood pressure is? Doctor did.
But
An unsafe
the
level.
problem is, I don't know whether you had a chance to read this or not, but that particular part, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna.
well, I did some measurements in my own home. So I am 200 yards off of Delashon Road. The dump trucks going up there are 68 at that distance. And if I read the code right, what the state says, too, on top of it, there's a state issue here too. You could stand right beside the property line and take a measurement. So I measured my farm tractors, one which is 30 horsepower.
Yeah.
At idle, it's 72.
Really?
The large one's 82 at idle, however, they're exempt. The state doesn't allow anybody to come back on that. So if you ever met your neighbors,
That's
you
kind of
gotta think you
a,
can do that.
that's a fine line too.
Well, I understand, I'm just telling you about the Farm Service Agency, because I went down with a comment on myself going, how could this be? Because you can't run a tractor at idle. And the neighbors, you obviously touch and things like that.
But then you're aware of, let's say, mowing your grass in which you
My
do it.
comment summarized with this to help you on this. You're 70 decibels, I'm 65 or 66 right now. Don't trust your iPhones, they're not accurate, you have a real meter. So I'm confused by that ordinance, because right now I'm in violation of it at my voice. If I
But-
understood it right, it was 65 decibels?
But it went
Makes you-
through, if you
Well, right,
read what's
but
in
I'm
there.
65, just talking. That's my
If
normal
you,
voice.
if you read what's in the draft, it goes through a nice explanation of how you take it and how you register it at
Understood.
times, and then never mentions that again in the other two paragraphs.
I understand, I've taken those measurements professionally, so I'm doing it right now for Columbia's probably their benefit, we'll say.
But,
Because I'm their neighbor, so I
Yeah.
want them to obey.
but you
the
see what
rules.
I'm saying? So there's other things in this. There's a lot of things that we need to go over. And like I said, it was decided between the people here and people that were on the board that we were going to take it in order. The problem with this, it's, okay, now we got 33 pages done, we'll just go ahead with it. Do you really think that the supervisors are going to spend the time you have? And I thank you for spending it. I think it's a waste of time, but I think they're not gonna do it. It's gonna be that rubber stamp I used a few minutes ago. So you better think long and hard before you vote for some of this. If you want it changed and you want a good, if you want the best one there is in Washington County, I think you better think long and hard about voting yes and sending this up to a meeting in 2 weeks in which it'll be shuffled off to Washington. Thank you. No, don't laugh. Please don't.
Just a second.
So the noise, we went over, I pulled those out from surrounding municipalities. I believe Jody even testified that she believes Cecil started that.
Cecil started it, they were the first ones to initiate that noise level.
And if you look around,
Spread like
they're pretty uniform. A lot of times for industrial, a couple of the townships I looked at went up a little bit higher. All I did was I checked with North Strabane because they, prior to you guys having a code enforcement officer, when we initially put this in, I checked with North Strabane. They said, yes, that's what they use. They haven't had an issue. And when, in extreme cases, they'll go out and they measure it. That's what they told me. That's my response. To cutting the grass, as he stated, farming operations are exempt. Cutting the grass, though, those are considered maintenance activities which are also exempt between certain hours of the day. Yes, you can't be cutting your grass, again, not for farming operations, but you can't be cutting your grass at midnight on a Tuesday night under here. A neighbor could complain, and technically if they went out and measured, they could cite you. But to answer that question, there are exemptions for, between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on the weekends. There are exemptions for when people can be outside doing maintenance, doing construction, having activities, recreational activities. There are exemptions there that you don't have to, speak on a whisper for fear that your neighbor's gonna call. But that's essentially the noise. So no, I have not made any changes since it was brought up 1 or 2 meetings ago. That was my check on, and I think at last month's meeting or the one before, again, I forget, there's a bunch of
And Michael,
different
we,
meetings.
the township still has a standalone nuisance ordinance
Not for noise,
for nuisances.
but not for noise.
Oh, it doesn't say noise is exempt.
Has to be it has to be an in fact, it can't be a,
It can't be per se.
that's right.
You have we had a lengthy conversation about this. You have an expert sitting on the panel right now that's telling you that's not adequate. Remember, I brought up all kind of examples. We had 2 people did meters in the audience, the voices were louder now. So now you've got a gentleman on the board now, newly appointed, that knows what he's talking about, that's the expert in the field, that's telling you that's a problem and an issue. Is that correct, Jeff? Is that?
I'm 65 right now.
We had lengthy discussion about this and it was never resolved. We brought up several examples. A barking dog is not exempt.
I think
I
that would
mean-
fall under nuisance. That would be a nuisance.
I'm just asking.
It's
I
all
understand, I
maintenance.
answered your question. No, I'm saying under the ordinance, there's a nuisance ordinance.
A dog's barking, what is that?
I mean, we can go on and on, but I'm glad, Jeff, thank you very much for that because I talked extensively about that and fell on deaf ears and got nowhere.
Jeff, would you be willing to meet with the supervisors, bring your professional advice and work on that provision?
It's, yes,
If it gets there.
yeah, but it's difficult, because I'm 65,
Okay.
unless I misunderstand that ordinance, or that
Oh, do you want to?
I'm violating every time I talk, and obviously that's a
You're not.
problem.
No, it's at the bottom of the line.
Well, I understand, but but if we're standing there talking, yeah, I read most of it, I should have read some of it. I read it, and it's DBA, and that's what I was looking at. And even if you make, there's HL and SPL, it's still, because SPL wouldn't make sense, it would be too loud. So it's HL. But anyways, I'm just saying, I realize there's gonna be issues, I realize this is a living document, and it's gonna be changing regardless if it's ordinances only or zoning complete. But I'm just one, again, because of recent history in this country, I'd love to see that document went through, or gone through. I'm told some of those ordinances are older than I am. Maybe I'm exaggerating, I'm 47, so.
That's probably some of them are.
Yeah, I just like to see that there's, I mean, I have to use documents under federal law as an audiologist that has the word telegraph on it. And you're going, wow, I mean, what is this about?
Where do you find one?
Exactly.
Well, the adult one had CD-ROM referred to it in it, so.
What are those?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I would help in any way, shape, or form.
Let's, Mike, once again, what is the process? If we pass this on back to the township, what is the exact process?
Well, under the law, they are still required to have a public hearing. Well, it's gotta go to the planning commission. You've gotta wait, you've gotta give them at least, I believe, 45 days. Double check, but I believe you have to give them at least 45 days to review. And then the township has to have a public hearing on the, whatever you recommended them. They could accept it as is after the public hearing. They could send it back to you for hearing. They could review it and make amendments. Yeah, but essentially the next step is gonna be go to the county planning, and then the township would have to have a public hearing on the matter.
Mike, my question is to that.
Wait just a second. Is there a place there for public comment?
The public hearing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
when
that's,
it goes to.
But public comment and actually somebody listening to what we say is completely separate. We can
I
talk
mean,
to her
the
blue in the
ultimate
face.
decision-makers are-
Yes, so it doesn't matter what we say.
And Bob said, stamp approval, and they can do that, right?
The decision's the board's ultimately.
Tim?
My question's kind of to Mike, it's on that. Mike, my question is, okay, is it this board, I can't remember what the law says, but it's their job to send off a draft that they are all comfortable with. Am I correct in that? I mean, not something that, like if Jeff has questions on the noise, I brought things for noise. I've looked up ordinance after ordinance. You know, I came prepared tonight, because again, I don't know what the future holds, but you know, I still have my notes and I still have everything, because you know, it's my idea that it's still this board's responsibility to send off a draft that they are completely comfortable with. Is that not the contention? Because this is your chance now to make something right. Do they have to send it at all, or can they just hold on and wait till next month? But if you guys are gonna sit there and send something that is completely incomplete, I feel then that, you know, even you guys aren't doing your duty. That's the whole idea here, is to send something that everybody has looked at and gone over and is comfortable with. But if we've only gone through, my notes have that we stopped on April 25th on page 35. This document isn't even nowhere near a complete document, and you guys are willing to send this off? I just don't see that.
Well, do they know something we don't?
Well, and so my question
I
is,
don't.
aren't they supposed to, are they supposed to do their best, do their due diligence to actually make the document to the best that they can before they send it on?
That's a personal opinion. I'm, under the MPC, they have to have a public meeting on it and collect they can, again, there's a lot of things that they can ask for, they can do. Ultimately, that's their decision of when they think whether they've got a complete document. I don't think you can ever have a complete document. As you see all the time, there are zoning ordinance amendments throughout, you know. But ultimately, it's their decision, whatever that reason may be, whether that may be they think that enough resources have already been spent, whether they think that it's complete, whether they think that it's never gonna be complete, but they believe, 6-7 months of meetings or a year and a half of meetings, that's up to them. But
Can they also
under the
just-
MPC, it's
can
my
they also
opinion
sit
that
on it?
yeah, under the MPC, yes, under the MPC, if they were to recommend it tonight, which I'm not advocating for, under the MPC, they've met the requirement of the MPC. It requires one meeting. Since I've been coming,
Right.
we've had 5 or 6. I don't know if the planning commission had it before I started coming, but at least the planning commission has
I
met
believe
their
they started in
requirement.
January.
Okay.
Planning Commission got
When
it.
the planning commission had it.
So my
I know it
last-
happened before that, but under the planning commission, they've met their requirements from a strictly legal standpoint.
Okay, so my last comment to the board is that if you guys are all willing to send off a document that none of you are really satisfied with, then I'm very sorry.
Yeah,
I'd like to know how in blue blazes you can even make a motion to send this when there is no record, nothing against you, but there is no record of what's gonna be in it other than his notes. And at least 3 of you, when you went around the table, said, it's not a perfect document, it's not a good document yet. That's insane. There is not one record anybody has, other than the attorney, of what is gonna be, what you're voting on. Did you keep notes?
no.
Did you keep notes that match his? How about you?
I have notes.
You have notes, do they match his?
We haven't compared them.
So you're gonna vote, or are you voting on your notes or his notes?
Well, just in their defense, they would have that ability to contact, to let the board know, to come to the public hearing, however they want it to be, to say, hey, that's not what we agreed upon, or that's not what my notes say. That's what I'm saying. It's not a
After the
final
vote.
document.
After they vote tonight.
Tonight would be subject to these being incorporated. So similar to what we dealt
That's
with.
what I'm saying, you're about to pick a vote. They have no idea what they're voting for.
We trust.
I think he's a decent guy too, but I'm telling you, you don't know what you're voting for.
Well, that's why it's subject to. They can make the statement, once they see that draft, if I just,
Okay,
whether
what?
I was wrong or
okay,
if I just did
okay,
what I
let's go
wanted.
with that, let's go
Can I
with
say,
that.
wait, can I say
What's
something
the,
here?
what's the process then?
The issue was, what we had presented in the very beginning was once these changes were made by Michael, it would come back here for
A
review.
final draft, basically, yeah.
That was in the original. That once you make, you were holding all the changes until we went through it all.
Correct.
And then you were gonna make that document and bring it back here.
so that, I mean, that can be the motion if that's what you got. So
I
it's
didn't
it's
make
not
it.
a.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
to clarify, that's what was
But yeah,
presented.
but what I'm saying is, I understand what his question is. My comment would be that if, when you see this draft, if it is not right,
Then they
it's not
would-
being approved.
Then
would
they
still be able to
would, then
raise
they
that.
would, then they change their vote, is that it, or?
No, they would say to the board that that's not what they believed it should say, and they could comment to the board. And again, when the board has its public hearing, it can make changes, it can make amendments, it can accept, it can do what it wants, it can add
What board?
things. What's that?
Which board?
The supervisors, when it goes to supervisor, the planning commission can still come and advocate.
Yeah, because they're citizens. Yeah, I understand that. But they can't withdraw their approval that they are prepared to make tonight.
They're not approving, they're suggesting, it's not
Yeah.
approval.
No, that's exactly what it says, Doug.
Yeah, the motion is to approve.
It says to.
The motion is to
That's
approve.
exactly what it
They're
says.
not making an approval, they're making.
It should be
No,
the
that's exactly what it says. Read
Right,
it.
okay,
That's, I
so,
did not say approve.
So they
I
can't-
said-
Okay, but I did read it back and everything.
Wait a minute.
said yes.
So-
Well, I never said the word approve. I said, it, in its last version, to be moved on to the Donegal Township Board of Supervisors. I never mentioned the word approve.
Okay, Kathy.
We can't approve
I'm
it.
not, okay, the motion I wrote down, I read back to you, both of you, and you both said it was fine. So just tell me what to change it to then. Don't yell at me.
They're not paint down, give her.
I just wrote down what you said and read it back to you. Thank you.
And what I put in here was motion to approve the
Exactly.
planning and zoning ordinance and return to the
I never
supervisors.
used the word approve.
I did.
That's what the agenda says, and that's how the minutes will read.
Well, that's why
The
we
minutes
changed the
will not
motion.
read like that because I did not say that.
Wow.
Okay, I'm sorry, alls I'm saying is I read it back and it was, that's what I said.
so they can withdraw their recommendation then, if we're changing it from.
If the, subject to the recommend, they can state that they do not believe those were the correct changes.
Yeah, And what good does that do once it's already to the supervisor?
They would have their chance to state that.
Well, yeah, again, they're citizens, we all have that chance.
And it's not gone very well when we've been there and done that.
Okay, Jay,
I can't see how you can vote on it. I just don't see it.
A few things. First of all, I want to clarify something. And I guess this would go to Kathy's motion as well. Kathy, do you need a drink of water?
No, I'm not.
Or,
Go ahead.
what this agenda says, what Lee printed, and what they have all said, going backwards, is motion to approve the planning and zoning ordinance and return to the supervisors for further action. Okay? It's not saying motion to send it to the supervisors. It's saying motion to approve.
She has to write down my motion, not what's on the paper that Lee wrote. She has to use my words,
Okay?
not what's on that paper. And that's what the minutes should reflect,
Okay,
not
I
what's
agree,
on
that's
the
what they
paper.
should reflect. But there's been problems with the minutes in the past.
well, Jerry's making the motion now to what Kathy said.
Okay. Another question I have, Doug, you made a comment that you said there's stuff in there that you didn't like and you didn't want. That is the first time I've ever heard you say that. Could you tell me what that is?
This is not a exchange back and forth, it's a public comment.
Yeah, because that would be productive, so we don't want to
Hey,
do
You
that.
guys have stalled, all you can stall.
Doug, I'm not stalling. I'm trying to do things right. You're stalling. Wait a minute, do you guys see the tone of this meeting since he's sitting at the table? Do you see how the tone has changed? You want to talk who's disruptive? Who likes to stir the pot?
Let's
Wait a
not-
minute.
No, let's not argue about one certain person, JD. Done with that. We're gonna talk about this, nothing else.
Thank you, now you're acting like a chairman.
Yes.
Instead of Doug sitting at the table. Okay?
Fine. Get
Thank
back to
you.
the subject.
Okay. That's a valid question. Okay? Another point. Jeff, you got a brand new member that's very knowledgeable, that's an expert in his field, that hasn't had a chance to review this, or this is the first time here. He don't know anything about it. And you're gonna ask him to,
No, he can abstain.
okay, I get that, he can, but you're still asking him. You're not giving him the opportunity. Doug's well aware of this. He's forging ahead. He's leading the charge. Jeff is new, and he hasn't had a chance, so you're asking him to, yes, he can abstain. But he brought up a valid point that we've had lengthy discussion, Mike, I gave you several examples about it. That's a problem, it's inadequate, it's unreasonable, 60 decibels. He just testified to that, basically, and he's an expert in his field, okay? Another thing is, and Kathy, I guess this would go to you, and it probably needs clarified for the motion, is the motion to, whatever you said, however you said it, but what is the version? Is the version the 4/3/17, is that the correct date?
No.
It's
Okay,
not,
let
it's
me
not in the
finish.
motion, it's not in the motion. I wrote down exactly what you
But
put.
when Mike asked if it was to include the 425 up through there, I said yes.
I'm not changing, I'm writing down what you wrote, and that's what's going in the minutes.
Yeah, I think what she's just clarifying is that the
Okay, fine.
document that we've been working on is dated
Correct.
4/3/17, which you asked. But there are discussions had on that document up through 4/25.
Got it, I've
So
been
I
here
think
for
when
every
she says,
meeting.
yeah, so when she says latest version, that's why I asked to clarify what they're asking to approve. I'm taking that to mean up through the
Recommend.
4/25.
Approve, watch
Put
yourself.
that in the notes.
Okay, I understand that. I want to make it crystal clear, not to clarify, because there's a lot of gray matter here, okay? My point is, you got the 4/3 version. Yes, we've made several changes. You know, our agreement was, or discussion was, to save the township resources and money, which was sensible, to work off that document instead of keep wasting money printing new drafts, correct? Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay, so we've been making changes, going through it page by page. You make the changes. When that is all done, then you would print a new draft. That would be the final draft, and that's what we propose, correct? Is that fair to say? So we all understand? So the motion on the floor, I want to know, is it that draft up to and including, as far as we got, which is page, I've heard different page numbers, okay? 33, 44, 22, whatever it is it up to and including that, and that's where it stops, and we're not approving from there on, that we didn't go through, that's unfinished, points that Bob made, about, we brought up at the last meeting, what about mine, you guys are regulating gas and oil, there is not a stitch, not one word about mining in there. Coal industry's right down the road, it's coming under the town, there's nothing in there. So is it up to and including that, and we're stopping it right there? Or is it the whole draft as a whole, as it was presented with the changes? That's not clarified. That's not what I heard. So that needs clarified. And this isn't stalling, Doug. This is trying to do things right. And try to get it right. To do it right the first time, not to go back and have it bite us in the ass and have lawsuit after lawsuit because somebody didn't care enough to read it or do it right the first time. So, do you think that we don't have anything better to do with our time? You know the man hours invested? You got citizens here that are doing the jobs of elected officials that has brought stuff to light that has saved the township money, that has saved possible lawsuits, that are doing what you guys are charged to doing with. It's not right. And you better get this right, guys. You know what I mean? The people have spoken more than once. First about adding 2 supervisors, overwhelming majority. And then this last election, what do you think? Yeah, it's not a one-issue election. It was about doing things right. You know what the numbers were?
Yes, we all know what the number.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got the same thing.
Your team had 300 votes. The People's Team, Donald Freedom Group candidates, whatever, had 1,283. That's 81% to 19%. That is an overwhelming majority. I know that doesn't matter here, just like it didn't with the surveys, but it should. It's the voice of the people you're supposed to represent and look out for their best interest. It is the citizens of Donegal Township who you are in charge and charged with and obligated to look out for their best interest and listen to what they have to say and plan accordingly, to act accordingly. That is your duty and obligation. That was your oath. You know what I mean? You're to serve the people of Donegal Township. They are speaking. They are telling you what they want. There's overwhelming majority. So you better do it right. If you're putting it forward, I agree with Tammy. You need to make it, if you're voting to send it forward, your duty is to make it the best it can be. Or, don't vote to put it forward. It either stops here and you vote it down, or you continue to work on it and make it the best it can be to put it forward, because the supervisors put it in your laps, charged you with the duty. So they're not gonna take the time to do what we have been doing. And going back to the beginning, when it went to you guys in the very beginning, it was very productive, it was very civil. We made great progress. That was the best meeting ever. And what happened? A night or 2 nights later, the supervisors pulled the rug out from under it, undid everything you guys did, not you guys, because several of those board members are already gone. So there's nothing to make us believe, past history or track record, that anything's gonna go any different. That's all I got for now.
I do think that you need to assume, however you vote tonight, you need to assume that what you're voting on
It's gonna
is
get
gonna
passed.
pass. So if you're comfortable with only looking at it up to page 35, and the other 50 pages or whatever it is unlooked at and unchanged, unaltered, and you're comfortable with that, vote away.
Those are not unaltered. They've been through many times.
I thought you weren't talking to us.
I'm allowed to address the audience.
Only when you want to.
That's right, that's correct. And yes, there has been stalling going on. I'd like to share this with you folks.
Oh, again, he's using up the public comment time.
Yeah, I'm permitted.
No,
Mr.
actually, you're
Chairman wants
not.
to rule me out of order.
No, you can say I'm out of order all you want, but any of you
I know
guys who
you're out of
vote
order.
yes,
Mr. Chairman,
just remember that you will come down on the side of history as pro-zoning, and the community voted the opposite way.
Give enough.
We don't know.
This is a letter from, well, this is an email of Darren and Tammy Imes, signed by Tammy and Kathy on 3/8/17. And if you go down to the third paragraph, anybody wants copies, there's extra. I highlighted some interesting things in this letter, and I'll just read the highlighted parts, there's a lot here. It says, "We have been pushing and stalling the zoning draft as much as we can." Go down to the bottom of the third paragraph, again, "We have stalled for several months." Down to the next to the last paragraph on the bottom, "As you all know, we've been able to put off zoning and the supervisors for the past year," bragging about it.
We have, and we're very proud of that fact.
What, is a light bulb just going off, Doug? You, everybody else.
You finally figured that out?
didn't read the results from Tuesday?
I call for a vote on the motion.
Wait a minute.
Correspondence. I'd like to know what that correspondence is.
He said there's copies here.
I understand that.
It's an email.
I understand.
From whom to who?
It sounds like one of the Freedom Group members wasn't too Lowell.
You put it in his bag. All right.
Jerry said she had a,
I do, whatever.
What's blacked out at the top, Doug?
I don't know, like that one I got.
You don't know? You presented it. You presented it. What's blacked out at the
I
top?
don't have a clue, it was blacked out when I got it.
Where'd you get it?
It was sent to me.
By whom?
I'm not on property.
You ought to be.
it doesn't matter if we saw it or not. The point
It needs
is,
to be seen.
if you vote yes, you will be considered pro-zoning in this community.
Am I allowed to make my comment now? Or
Yes.
Out of order.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Whether it's stalling or not, I sent an email to the board, at least maybe 2 months ago, kind of angrily saying that if we're doing this, we should do it right, not just, say it's fine and go on. And I made that point then, and I am disappointed now that, we've done this process to a certain spot, and then all of a sudden, or stopping the process we were in the process of doing, which is what we were presented as being our